Hello everybody, and welcome to my second episode on YouTube. So you have to forgive me a little bit this morning. My voice is very croaky, but I'm sure we'll get through it. So if you remember from the first episode, we were raking this grass up into rows, ready for baling, and we are now here on the David Brown 1210. With the front loader, as you can see, and the class rolling baler, and we are just now baling this grass up, and then once we've got this done, we will then bring the Massey Ferguson with the Gal wrapper on it, and obviously this David Brown, and we'll wrap the bales, and then once they've fermented into silage, we will then take them to the bale sell point and sell the bales. That's pretty much, obviously, it sounds obvious to say, but that's how we're going to get our first load of money, because the one thing that did strike me when I recorded the first episode was, and I showed you the two crop fields, I suddenly thought, I don't have a combine. So the money that we raise from the first lot of bales is going to have to go on a combine, just so as we can harvest our crops, and then obviously we will have a little bit of crop to sell, but more importantly we'll have straw to sell, so the two combined will bring in a little bit of extra money, and then I'm not sure what I'm going to put in those two fields for next year. We're currently on the first day of summer, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to put grass in them, and then we keep doing the silage until we get sort of enough money, because I'm fairly certain I haven't started myself with a seed drill or anything, so money's probably going to be a bit tight this first year, and I think before we start looking into arable farming, we need to get the money together to buy some more land, because they're not fields on this game. There's four predefined fields in total, but the rest of it is just grassland, and you have to kind of sort that out yourself, which is fine. Obviously got no issue with that, but we need to sort of try and make money as fast as we can, and not worry too much in the beginning about the equipment. With seasons, I play on ×1 time, so that I sort of get the hours of a real day, but playing on ×1 with 4-day seasons, so that each if you like month, because the game does months like August, September, October, doing 4 days means that each day is a week, so obviously at the end of the 4th day, that's 4 weeks that have passed, and then you go into your next month then, so that's why I do it that way. It's just something I've always done, really, ever since the mod, the seasons mod. I've done it that way, and it's always sort of worked well for me. I don't go into the 0.5 time, as I say. I have it on 1 time, which is supposed to be real time. It's not far out, but it's not quite, because I have tried it against real time by starting the game up at 7 o'clock in the morning as though arriving at work, playing the game all day until 7 o'clock in the evening, and you are a little ahead of the real time by the time you get towards the end. You're not ahead by much. I can't remember exactly how far the gap was. It wasn't by much. I think it was about half an hour, 40 minutes, something like that. I mean, in the future, looking forwards, if that's something you're interested in me doing, which is you know, either live streaming all day or recording a complete day. Excuse me, recording a complete day of the real time to see how they do correlate to each other. But yeah, so that's what we're doing today. We're baling this up, and then, as I say, we're going to wrap it. And then once we've wrapped it, obviously we'll have to wait for it to ferment, which does concern me slightly in terms of those crop fields. I think I'm going to be alright until probably at least mid-autumn probably. We're going very slow here. It's because there's a hill here. I didn't actually realise there was a hill until I turned round the time before and looked back down the field, the way I just came, and this is quite a significant hill here. I have to admit, I thought that most of this land on this game, on this map, was flat, but no. Having literally just emptied it, you would have thought I would have known that would be there, wouldn't you? But it still caught me by surprise. So yeah, as I say, we'll get these baled, and then we'll either have to spend some of our nun money. I think we got about 3,000 in the bank, or 3,400 or something like that in the bank. We might have to just spend a little bit of money and hire a combine, which I don't really want to do. And the other thing that's become apparent to me this morning was, like in real life, every day when I start the game up, I always check the diesel in all the tractors. Just because on some maps you're so far away from the farm that you don't want to be travelling all the way back just to fill up with diesel. So I checked the diesel, and it suddenly occurred to me, even if the tank was nearly empty, I don't have a diesel tank on the farm, so we're going to have to get something that holds diesel. Now, the permanent solution to this is going to be getting a permanent diesel tank. I'm not too sure at this stage how the farm is going to look, and what I don't want to do is put a diesel tank down to then have to sort of sell it to put it down elsewhere, because obviously you lose money on them, and it's not something that you would generally do in real life. So my solution is this: we buy a diesel tank that will go on the back of either a car or the truck or whatever, or obviously we'll go so that these, at the very least, these tractors can pull it. So we'll buy the mobile diesel tank. There's a garage up in near the shop, a fuel garage or fuel station up near the shop. So we'll fill the mobile tanker from there, and then come back, obviously bring it back to the farm, and then just stand it somewhere in the farm. But it does mean that when we start to design a farm, we'll, obviously it won't be permanent, and we can move it around, and then once we've got the farm sort of set or how we want it, then we can start looking into having a permanent fuel tank on the farm then. But for now, I think that's the best way to go, because I don't, as I say, I don't want to put one down and then have to sell it and sort of try and move it. That's the one thing I wish Farming Simulator would do, is that you could move stuff. I know you wouldn't necessarily move sheds and sort of things like that, but in real life, mainly because of the expense of taking it down, and then you've then got to try and get it back up again. But it is an option. I mean, the second farm that I worked on, we moved a grain store because they were expanding their dairy, and I was part of the. It did it one winter. It was essentially the winter job for that year. Normally it was cutting trees down and clearing drains and dikes and stuff like that to make sure that obviously all the water drained. But I remember that year it was moving a grain shed, which was a Herculean task, and because of my circumstance I ended up really being the driver of moving stuff from where it was to where it was going. We did have lorries as well, but the farm had their own lorries and lorry drivers, so we were pretty much, apart from the crane, we were able to use pretty much all of the farm's own equipment. I said the crane that came in, came in from Crowland Crane Hire. It's a few years ago now, actually, to be fair, that we did that. I bet that's getting on for 10 years ago. But yeah, so as I say, it's not something you genuinely do in real life, but you can do it. The option is there, and I just wish that option was there with Farming Sim, because it would make sometimes gameplay and life a little bit easier. But there you go. It is what it is, I suppose. So yeah, as I say, once we get designing that farm, and like I say, we're going to have it's going to be a mixed arable and animal farm. Animals are not something that I tend to play with all that much on Farming Sim. It's something that I've always sort of wanted to do or been interested in doing, but I've never actually really done it. I have had save games where I've had a few cows and sort of done that, but I've never really taken it seriously. I think one of the reasons that put me off was because I think it was in 2009, was it, or 2011, I actually did, only to myself, but I did a dairy save game, like a dairy farm save game, and I really enjoyed it. And then I think it was either 2017 or 2019 FS when the Seasons mod was out, and I did the same. I picked the map that I wanted to do dairy on. Of course, one day I forgot, it was in the summer months as well, I forgot to top up the feed trough, and the way the Seasons mod worked was obviously the cows died. And I mean, it's silly, but it really annoyed me because they were in a massive grass field. I mean, huge grass field. The grass was nice and long, and I'm thinking, whilst I understand why they've done that, they could have written into the script somehow that it didn't happen in the summer, because obviously the cows are out grazing in the field. That the animals, if you forgot to feed them, would only die in the winter when, theoretically they would be inside. So it annoyed me, and I never played with animals thereafter. On the game, I never had animals thereafter because that really annoyed me. And I just stopped doing it again. I just went back to arable and sort of doing what I know. But yeah, in 2022, this is or in the game FS22, this is what I want to go back to doing. I want to go back to doing animals. I want to go back to sort of doing pigs, sheep, chickens. Having said that, I did a save game last year, I think it was, on Maypole Farm, and I did do chickens on there, and I'm pretty certain I may have used the cow barn on there as well. So it's not that I haven't done any on this particular version of the game, but I've done very little. And so I thought that on this save game, what we'd do is we'd set up a dairy, and we'd also set up a beef beef cattle as well, and obviously we'll do pigs. I don't know about horses, maybe, but we'll do pigs, we'll do chicken, we'll do sheep, we'll do a mixture of sheep, because I've got a mod that's called dairy sheep, which I didn't think was a thing, but apparently it turns out that it is a thing, so we'll do that as well. And yeah, we'll do the animals as well as the dairy, which will be interesting and sort of give us more to do within the gameplay aspect of the actual game. But as I said to you in the first video, starting from scratch, very little money. As I said, I've got about 3,400 in there at the moment. This tractor, the little Massey Ferguson that you've seen, that from the first video that I watched back, that rake was a little bit too heavy for. I didn't notice it while I was actually raking. I didn't notice the tractor was, and then it was kind of like I was watching the video back going, whoa, I would have seriously damaged the front axle and the front steering rods on that tractor in real life if I'd have kept lifting it and sort of dropping it back down onto the ground. So we may have to rethink that tractor and its role upon the farm, in terms of we may have to sell it quite early on and get another tractor, either another one of these, or perhaps go for a Ford or something like that, or another Massey Ferguson like a 390T or something, just because we can't really have that happening every time we use it. It does concern me with the bow wrapper, because that goes on the back of the tractor, so it kind of concerns me with that we may be getting quite a bit of liftage there as well. So we'll have to keep our eye on all of that. Lord knows why I did 4 breeds around the outside. 2 was enough, look. But anyway, is one thing that I do tend to do. I do tend to give myself a lot of room on the headland. As I said to you as well in the first video, like, just because I do things in a certain way doesn't mean they're right, or doesn't mean they're wrong, but it's what I was taught to do in real life, was to make sure that you left more than enough room on the headlands, especially when we were driving our potato harvesters and sugar beet harvesters as well, and also when we were ploughing. I wouldn't have left this much of a headland if ploughing, but I would still leave myself a decent sized headland to turn around in. And I think the main reasons I was encouraged to leave a biggish headland is that you could turn and go back on yourself without having to reverse. The second farm that I worked on, the reverse gear was frowned upon in a lot of jobs, just because obviously you were wasting time going backwards when you could be going forwards, and so they liked a bigger headland so that you could sort of, as you were coming up towards the dike or the hedge, or whatever it was that was defining the end of the field, you could swing and then swing in towards what you'd already done, and then swing out and then round again, so you make sort of a bit like a hairpin shape, and that just meant that you hadn't wasted time going backwards and shunting on the headlands, because obviously that can cause quite a lot of compaction. So the idea from the farm was that if we were moving forwards always while we were turning round, then that was a lot better. The only time really we would be permitted to reversing was the first probably couple of breeds with the combine, just because obviously the corners you can't really do that. We did have a year where we what we called round drilled the fields, so rather than going into the corners, we would sort of just drill round and try and get the combines to follow the sort of sweep, if you like, at the corner. But it didn't work all that well, and they went back to drilling not right into the corners, but drilling into the corner, so that you know, you had to sort of reverse back again to go round. But once you'd done, I think it was after 3 breeds, you then had to swing, so you'd go right round on yourself and like a sort of almost figure of 8, and then go down. We had 2 Class Lexion 700s on the farm, and now the farm has got an 8-900 Lexion, and hires in each year a John Deere X9. So they've upgraded their combines, but since I've left, they've taken on a heck of a lot more land. So you know, I guess the bigger combines are necessary. But yeah, so. But that was the way that we did it in real life, and that's the way I tend to do it on the game. It's kind of stuck with me. I know the game doesn't simulate compaction, but I sort of try and play the game as though it does, and so I do tend to try and follow the compaction rules that were on the farm. The farm that I worked on were very, very strict on it. You know, everything had GPS, so there was no overlap. Everything had to be just right, and it was a very different world from what I'd been used to. I'd worked on 2. I mean, the last farm that I worked on, it was a family farm, but I'd sort of worked on 2 very small family farms compared to that one. It was a big family, big sort of farming corporation. They sort of swallowed up a lot of the smaller farms around the area, and swallowed up pretty much most of the land around the area, and they were very big. But the 2 smaller family farms that I'd worked on, you know, compaction wasn't really something that existed. They knew about it, but they didn't really think that its impact on crop yields and stuff like that was all that significantly great, and so they didn't really worry about it as much. You know, if he saw you messing about on the end of the field or whatever, you know, then the word compaction would get mentioned to you, but not very often. But I mean, that, you know, the first farm that I worked on, their farming practices weren't as regimented as all the farms that I worked on. After that, the next family farm that I worked on was predominantly wheat and potato farm. It did have some beef cattle, but again, I didn't get involved with the cattle side of it. I was on that farm, I was combine driver. I did all the drilling, all the main cultivation. So it's essentially me and my challenger that did the farm. So I used to work quite long hours. The other guy that worked on the farm, he was the beef manager, and then he helped out when we were doing potatoes, mainly with carting. So I'd drive the Grimmy GT 170 potato harvester, and him and the farm owner, manager, and everything else would drive the other cart. 2 carts would just about get round. If we were struggling, or if we were a little bit further away from the farm, then the farm owner slash manager's dad who was 80, would then come and give us a hand as well. But life was very slow when he was next to you. you didn't get. Let's put it this way: by the time you'd filled him, both of the other two tractors and trailers were back. So what I tended to try and do was I tried to sort of do what I was sort of asked to do in terms of getting it done, but try and eke out the two quicker cart drivers, so that I didn't have him alongside quite as long. I mean, sometimes it would work out, but a lot of the times it didn't. But yeah, never mind. Anyway, I think this video has probably gone on long enough. We're at 25 minutes or 26 minutes. So I'll get this done, and then in the next episode we'll have that wrapper on the Massey Ferguson, and we'll try it and see if it works. And if it does work and it is okay, we'll be wrapping the bales, and then the plan is that we'll just leave them in the field, and then we'll just collect them as and when we want to sell them. I usually play with auto stackers just because they're easier, and because bales have in the past been very temperamental and fiddly in farming sim. However, since the GAL update, they have they've been very much more handle friendly. So we'll have a little go. If I still struggle and it looks terrible, we'll go back to auto stack. But we'll have a go. As I say, we'll learn and grow the channel, the farm, and me as a simulator driver as we go along. Because there are a few, like I said to you the other day, basically the other thing as well that's hard with sort of bales and other jobs on the farm is because you don't have 360 vision, and there's no depth perception on the game. I find it makes jobs like bale stacking and stuff like that quite difficult, and that's why I sort of tend to struggle. I also have, due to something that happened to me when I was 4, I have a problem with hand and eye coordination, so my hands and my eyes don't tend to work together all that much. Sort of my hand wants to go in one direction, my eyes are looking somewhere else, and that sometimes can make bale stacking quite difficult as well when you need sort of fine movements. I'm alright with like general turning and stuff like that, but when it needs to be sort of fine, sort of marginal little adjustments and stuff like that, that's when my hand and eye coordination tends to sort of struggle. And part of my physio for that when I was younger was playing darts, believe it or not. It was highly recommended that I play darts to try and get my hand and my eyes to correlate with each other. But you would think that if I'd been doing that since I was little, I'd be really good at darts, and the sad truth is I'm not. Anyway, on that bombshell, we'll leave the video here, and then, as I say, next time you join me, I'll be bale wrapping, and then either in the same video or possibly in the next video we'll do bale collecting. So thank you very much again for tuning in and watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, it really does help me out, and it will also show me that people are enjoying my videos and my content, and of course it offers great encouragement to keep going. So thank you very much, and see you next time.